What's up, y'all? It's Animane here, and on this week's episode of Midweek Waifus, we've got a double feature. We're going back to the 90s era of Capcom fighting games and digging out some true hidden treasures. For those who aren't familiar with the Darkstalkers series, 1. I don't blame you. Capcom barely even acknowledges this series, and I will never let them live that down. 2. Good. Now I get to enlighten you. And 3, after you watch this video, go find it. Go find any version of this game you can and fix this. Play the game. It is everything. But to keep things short, Darkstalkers is a Capcom fighting game that saw short-lived success in the 90s, carrying over into the 2000s. Imagine all your favorite old-school horror movie figures and sci-fi fears distilled into pixelated anime form, shucking up a bit, and bam! You got Darkstalkers. Unfortunately, time hasn't been nearly as kind to this franchise as Capcom's other time-honored titles, like Street Fighter or Resident Evil. And that's for a few different reasons. And I mean a lot of different reasons. The Nostalgic Gamer made a very expansive video about the Darkstalkers series, which I'll link below for anyone interested in the history of this franchise. The 2D footage from this video is also taken from the Nostalgic Gamer, so big shout out to him. We'll be looking at 2 Darkstalkers in particular today, Felicia Hsien-Ko. Side note, I know the pronunciation of her name varies from source to source, but from what I've heard, Hsien-Ko is the most accurate, or the closest to being accurate at the very least, so that's what I'll be sticking with. She's also known as Lele in Japan. But before diving into this week's double feature, I gotta give an honorable mention to Morgan. Now, why isn't she on the actual list? Well, she just didn't hook me very much on a personal level. Could this be my first L of Midweek Waifus? Maybe. You be the judge. And while I always did enjoy playing as Morgan with all her crazy moves, I just wasn't really that drawn to her. She's never my go-to. That's not to say she doesn't have a great visual design, cool backstory, or fun moveset, because she definitely does have all those things. She is the most popular character of the franchise, but there just wasn't anything beyond the visceral to really hook me on a personal level and make me just want to play her over and over and over again. But again, that's not taking anything away from the dopeness that is Morgan. So shout out to the reigning succubus of the fighting game world. And with that being said, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of this week's double feature for Midweek Waifus. So let's put the spotlight on Felicia Hsien-Ko and make it hot! Felicia the Catwoman was born in 1967 and raised by a Catholic nun named Sister Rose. Her appearance was off-putting to other children, so she had trouble making friends, and would usually entertain herself by watching performances and musicals on TV. Despite her relatively lonely existence, Felicia was a very friendly and optimistic child. She would eventually put these traits to use in the circus, where she finally found more acceptance. She also met other Catwomen like her, forming a close-knit performance group. Felicia's known great success, both on and off the stage, and after a successful music career, and a few times helping to save the world, she went on to open an orphanage of her own, for needy children of all types. She continues to look forward to a day where humans and Darkstalkers can coexist in peace, using her music and performances to help bridge the gap between the two races. Felicia was my first love in Darkstalkers, and continues to be my favorite from the roster to this day. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't first drawn to the character because of her looks. What, I was like 10 first time I played these games. Was I just supposed to ignore the naked cat lady? As is the case with so many other waifus, I was titillated by Felicia's various assets.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
But it wasn't long before I fell in love with everything else she had to offer. I mean, just the fact that she's this happy and energetic in a game full of undead creatures, creepy ghouls, and villainous fiends who want to suck your blood. That has to mean something, right? Apparently, she was even a favorite among the developers before the first game even hit the shelves. I mean, just look at her. Her bright color scheme, the way she bounces around the screen, with her every animation just dripping with life and personality. This infectious energy also translated well into the realm of animation for the 4-episode-long Darkstalkers OVA from '97. Basically, it's an anime that was released straight to video. But about the OVA itself, it was... yeah, I can't lie. It was ass. I mean, flaming hot ass. Nothing of consequence ever happened until the plot wanted it to. I mean, like most other game-based OVAs, it's mainly an excuse to have the characters from the game pull off their signature moves on each other in full anime form. But it even fails there because that doesn't even take up most of the runtime. No, that would be spent smothering the audience in exposition and emo navel-gazing, most of which comes by way of one Donovan Bane. Ugh, they named him right, because this fool is the bane of my existence. Seriously, if you're a fan of these games, you can hang up any hopes you have of your faves having some show-stealing moments, and that unfortunately includes our double featurette today. And yet, among this pile of animated fecal matter, Felicia does get a handful of dope moments, which is way harder than it sounds or than it has any business being, and that's because this show barely utilizes its insane cast. But this isn't a review of said series, so I'll just leave my commentary at that. Getting back to Felicia in particular, it's real good to see her as the friendly do-gooder who remains hopeful that one day Darkstalkers and humans will be able to coexist in peace. I mean, at least they got that right. She holds on to these ideals in spite of the cruelty she faces at the hands of normal humans, thanks to the kindness of other humans. There's one scene in particular in episode 3, I want to say, where this doctor nurses her back to health after an attack, and frees her after she gets captured by some baddies. Goes to show that even if a majority of your experiences with people are bad, just a few bright spots here and there can be enough to keep you holding on to hope.
Tell me, how does a Darkstalker come to care for human lives?
There are those willing to understand us. If you give them the chance, it's only a matter of time. You know, they're coming to understand us.
Is that so?
Mm-hmm. I know it's true. We live in the same world, don't we? We have no other choice but to get along.
The scene isn't nearly enough to save the anime, but it was good seeing our favorite cat girl in full anime form. Once we get out of the 90s, Felicia continues to rise in popularity. She pops up in damn near every Capcom crossover game and enters that roster of Capcom mascots right alongside Ryu, Mega Man, and a bunch of others. It really fits in my opinion. She kind of symbolizes the bizarre but beloved spirit of the 90s, one that wouldn't easily be replicated in decades to come, and straight up wouldn't be allowed at all today. I mean, what other decade of gaming can you expect a cheerful, naked Catwoman with a backstory equal parts tragic and inspiring to be featured alongside not Dracula, an evil fire alien, and an Uzi-wielding bounty hunter disguised as Little Red Riding Hood? Yeah, like I said, the 90s were a trip. But Felicia really does encapsulate that whole spirit, all the wonderful weirdness of the decade distilled into a highly animated sprite. One who would even call on her cat homegirls to curb stomp you if you got too handsy during a fight. Yeah, there's really no way you can convince me that Felicia isn't peak 90s fighting game. Chun-Li still reigns supreme as my favorite female video game character overall, but Felicia honestly is in a class all her own. So shout out to the #1 cat girl. I remember you, and so do a lot of other fans, even if Capcom won't actually give you anything to do. And since today's a double feature, we are not through yet. So let's hop over and take a closer look at everyone's favorite Jiangshi, a phrase never uttered by anyone ever, and check out Hsien-Ko. Hsien-Ko is a Jiangshi, or a hopping Chinese vampire, from the 1700s. She's also two characters in one technically, made up of Hsien-Ko herself and her twin sister, Mei Ling. Mei Ling resides in the paper talisman on Hsien-Ko's hat during combat. The sisters come from a family of mystics, trained to fight evil spirits. They were very close, and well respected and loved in their community. But on one fateful night, their village was attacked by Darkstalkers. Their mystic arts master was murdered, and their mother gave her life to protect them, trapping her soul in the darkness in the process. To release their mother's soul from the darkness, the sisters used the Igyo Tenshin technique to turn Hsien-Ko into a Jiangshi. Mei Ling turns into a ward to make sure Hsien-Ko doesn't lose control of her darker half that's been building up inside her. The two set off to hunt the Darkstalkers who attack their people, and help innocents in the process as a dark hunter of the night. The two sisters did eventually free their mother's soul, and in return, she had them reincarnated so they could live a normal life. And on their 16th birthday, their supernatural powers awoke, just as an extra special gift from the mother. Like Felicia, Hsien-Ko has an upbeat and playful personality, as well as a real cute design, to balance out the tragic nature of her backstory. In Hsien-Ko's case, I think it works even better since we're talking about undead twins with a mother who died protecting them. But you gotta give it to the design team. I mean, cat women are already such a staple of adorableness and sexiness around the world, so I'd figure it wouldn't take a whole lot of effort to come up with a cute and sexy design for one. I mean, hell, I actually think the real talent in making Felicia came with giving her some more monstrous traits, like her larger hands and feet. But Jiangxi are the exact opposite. They're inherently creepy and gross characters, so to give one a cute, youthful face and an upbeat personality takes some serious skill. I mean, they even made her kinda clumsy when she's not in battle. I mean, I've been playing this game since elementary school, and I wouldn't even figure out what Hsien-Ko is until I was grown. That's some damn good subversive character design. Speaking of things I learned as an adult, remember that clip of her saying hello in Mandarin to start a match? Yeah, my dumbass thought she was saying yeehaw for my whole childhood. Don't mind me, y'all. I'm just stupid. Her gameplay is also insanely fun and unique. Rather than having incredible destructive power or some crazy type of martial arts, Hsien-Ko relies on a variety of weapons during battle. The big exception to this rule is during one of her ultimates when Mei Ling emerges from the talisman to fight alongside her sister. Most of her weapons are stored in her outfit in some crazy pocket universe, infinite room type of way, but some of them just appear out of thin air whenever she needs them. All of this gives me huge Looney Tunes vibes, and I just can't get enough of it. Just another way that Hsien-Ko breaks up the morbid and macabre monotony that would easily take over the game if it weren't for characters like her. Way better than frickin' Donovan, that's for sure. Now, I've already ripped the OVA a new one, so I'll keep this section short. Like I said earlier, it really doesn't give Hsien-Ko a lot to do, but I get the feeling that she was at least supposed to kinda maybe sorta be one of the more prominently featured good guys. I mean, she is a dark hunter like Donovan after all, and she actually has a personality. Damn, maybe they should have made her the main good guy. Shoot, she even gets to participate in the final battle with the fiery alien, Pyron. Her presence really doesn't amount to much, just like Felicia. But to be honest, with all the well-deserved crap I give the OVA, it's still leagues ahead of the American Darkstalkers cartoon, made by the same beautiful people that made the American Street Fighter cartoon. There's only one season, and it sucks donkey dick. The only thing worth remembering about it are the memes. Not even Felicia and Hsien-Ko could save that show. Not surprising with how pitiful they looked. But it's only a small blemish on the life of Darkstalkers overall. And in similar fashion to Felicia, Hsien-Ko would be featured in several games outside of Darkstalkers. I mean, Hsien-Ko even gets a couple puzzle games of her own. And both ladies are constantly popping up in stage backgrounds or in endings for other Capcom members. I really do hope that one day we can see a proper return of the Darkstalkers series. There have been a bunch of re-releases, remasters, retouches, re-renditions with additions, bringing the old games to new platforms with a nice set of polish, or while combining different aspects from the actual 3 actual games. I have no idea when or if we'll ever see a proper 4th edition to the series, but I'm gonna tap into my inner Felicia and be hopeful. And even if it never comes back, they've already cemented their place in my heart, as well as the heart of a lot of other video game enthusiasts. Even just looking at their sprite ready to fight animations just makes you want to go out and pick up a joystick and start playing. I mean, one attached to a controller. But that's gonna be all for me today. Thank y'all for watching and listening. I wanted to give you guys a little something extra since I have been slacking on this series lately. I do greatly apologize. Hopefully my life can stop being on fire long enough for me to pick this up more regularly. But until then, thanks for watching and listening. I'm Animane, and I'll talk to y'all later. Deuces.
Thanks, Doc. You've given me new faith in humankind. That's why I love humans. Just when you think you figured them out, they do something to surprise you.
What counts is the soul.
The soul and the will to fight. Right, Mother?